blood-curdling scream echoes through the foggy London night, shattering the silence of a grand Victorian mansion. Welcome to the gripping tale of Poirot and the corpse beneath the iron staircase. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and let the mystery unfold as Hercule Poirot unravels a web of deceit and death. If you're hooked and enjoying the story, hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Chapter 1. The Midnight Summons Picture. It's a drizzly evening in 1920s London, the kind where the street lamps flicker like hesitant witnesses to hidden crimes. Our story kicks off with the legendary detective Hercule Poirot, that meticulous Belgian with his perfectly waxed moustache and razor-sharp little grey cells, lounging in his cosy apartment on Whitehaven Mansions. He's just finished a light supper of tisane and buttered toast when the telephone jangles insistently, pulling him from his reverie. On the line is Inspector Japp from Scotland Yard, his voice laced with urgency. "Poirot, old chap, we've got a real puzzler here. A body's turned up at the old Hargrove estate, stabbed clean through, hidden under the wrought iron staircase in the foyer. No weapon, no witnesses, and the family's acting queer as folk. Need your expertise pronto." Poirot, ever the epitome of calm, adjusts his tie and summons his faithful companion, Captain Hastings. "Mon ami," he says with that signature twinkle in his eye. "It seems the night calls us to dance with death once more." They hop into a taxi, weaving through the mist-shrouded streets toward the imposing Hargrove Manor on the outskirts of the city. As they arrive, the house looms like a shadowy sentinel, its tall windows glowing faintly against the darkness. Uniformed officers mill about the entrance, their faces grim under the porch light. Inside, the scene is straight out of a nightmare. The grand foyer, with its marble floors and ornate chandelier, is cordoned off. Beneath the spiralling iron staircase, a masterpiece of Victorian engineering, lies the victim, Sir Reginald Hargrove, the wealthy industrialist, his evening suit stained crimson from a single, precise stab wound to the heart. No signs of struggle, no footprints in the pooling blood. Poirot kneels carefully, his gloved hands hovering like a conductor over an orchestra. "Ah, the method, it is most orderly," he murmurs. "The killer, they wished for this to appear as an accident perhaps, but non. The placement under the stairs, it is deliberate, a message peut-être." Japp fills them in on the basics. Sir Reginald was hosting a small family gathering that evening. His wife, Lady Evelyn, elegant but distant. His son, Victor, a hot-headed heir with gambling debts. His daughter, Amelia, recently returned from Paris with secrets of her own. And the butler, Mr. Graves, who's been with the family for decades. Also present was Dr. Lydia Thorne, the family physician and a close friend, who discovered the body around midnight while fetching a glass of water. Everyone claims to have been in their rooms or the drawing room, alibied by one another. Yet something doesn't add up. The front door was locked from the inside, windows secured, no forced entry. Poirot begins his methodical questioning, starting with Lady Evelyn. She's poised in the parlour, sipping sherry with trembling hands. "My husband was a good man, detective," she insists, her eyes darting to the window. "But he had enemies in business, rivals who envied his steel empire." Poirot nods sympathetically, but notes her pearl necklace, one bead slightly askew, as if hastily fastened. "Madame, tell me of the evening's events. Was there any discord?" She hesitates, mentioning a brief argument over finances, but dismisses it as routine. Next, Victor Hargrove paces like a caged lion, his face flushed. "Father was stubborn, always cutting off my allowance," he admits gruffly. "But murder? I'd never." Poirot probes gently. "And where were you at midnight, monsieur?" Victor claims he was in the library, reading ledgers, alone. Amelia, meanwhile, is tearful but composed, her French perfume lingering in the air. "Papa and I were close. He supported my art studies abroad," she says. But Poirot senses evasion when he asks about her sudden return home. Dr. Thorne, practical and no nonsense, confirms she checked Sir Reginald's pulse, dead on arrival. No pulse, no breathing. It was instantaneous. As for Mr. Graves, the butler, he's unflappable, serving tea even amid the chaos. I've served the Hargroves faithfully, sir. Saw nothing amiss until the scream. Whose scream? Lady Evelyn's upon hearing Dr. Thorne's cry of alarm. Poirot steps back to survey the staircase itself. Twisted iron rails, cold and unyielding. Why hide the body there? It's visible from the entrance, yet tucked away. He spots a faint scuff on the bottom step, perhaps from a shoe, and a dropped cufflink engraved with VH, Victor's? Or a plant. The little grey cells buzz with possibilities. Jealousy, inheritance, a lover's quarrel. By dawn, as the first light filters through the windows, Poirot turns to Hastings and Japp. This is no random act, my friends. The corpse beneath the iron staircase holds the key to a deeper secret. We must dig into the family's past, debts, affairs, hidden alliances. The chapter closes with Poirot straightening his moustache, ready to peel back the layers. And just like that, the mystery deepens, leading us into the tangled web of suspense. Chapter 2. Shadows in the Study. The morning sun barely pierces the heavy drapes of Hargrove Manor as Hercule Poirot and Captain Hastings step into the late Sir Reginald's study, a room thick with the scent of old leather and cigar smoke. Inspector Japp trails behind, scribbling notes. The study, with its towering bookshelves and mahogany desk, feels like a vault of secrets, the kind of place where truths hide in the crevices of paper and ink. Poirot's sharp eyes scan the room, landing on a locked drawer in the desk, its brass handle gleaming faintly. "Mon ami," he says to Hastings, "a man's desk is his heart, non? Let us see what it whispers." Japp produces a keyring from the evidence collection, found in Sir Reginald's pocket. The smallest key clicks open the drawer, revealing a bundle of letters tied with a crimson ribbon, a ledger marked "Private," and a small ornate box. Poirot unties the letters first, his gloved fingers delicate as they unfold yellowed paper. The topmost letter, dated 3 months prior, is from a man named Charles Whitmore, a rival industrialist. It's polite but cold, warning Sir Reginald to cease undercutting my contracts or face consequences. Poirot raises an eyebrow. A threat, perhaps, but too vague to be our murder motive. The ledger is more revealing. Pages of meticulous entries show large sums paid to an unnamed recipient, labelled only CL, monthly for over a year, totalling thousands. Hastings peers over Poirot's shoulder. Blackmail, do you think? Poirot nods slowly. Or a debt, Captain. But to whom and for what? The ornate box yields a surprise. A single pearl earring, its twin missing. Poirot holds it to the light, noting its lustre. Curieux. This does not belong to Lady Evelyn's set, I think. They move to question the household again, this time in the study's sombre glow. Dr. Lydia Thorne is first, her medical bag at her side. She claims no knowledge of the payments or the earring, but her fingers fidget when Poirot mentions CL. "I only tended to Sir Reginald's health," she insists, though her eyes linger on the desk. Victor Hargrove, summoned next, grows defensive at the sight of the ledger. "My father's business dealings were his own. I only managed the factory accounts." When shown the earring, he flushes, muttering about some trinket he'd seen in the house. Amelia, however, pauses when shown the earring. Her hand brushes her ear instinctively. "It's not mine," she says quickly, but Poirot notes her hesitation. "Mademoiselle, you returned from Paris abruptly. Was there a reason?" Amelia bites her lip, admitting she'd quarrelled with a suitor abroad, but refuses to elaborate. Mr. Graves, the butler, remains stoic, claiming ignorance of the drawer's contents. Yet Poirot catches him glancing at the bookshelf, where a volume of Shakespeare sits slightly askew, alone again. Poirot examines the bookshelf, pulling out the book. Othello. A folded note slips out, written in a hurried scrawl. Meet me at the Old Oak, midnight. Tuesday. The date matches the night of the murder. A rendezvous, Poirot muses. But with whom? Hastings suggests checking the oak tree in the estate's garden, but Poirot hesitates. No, we must first understand the players. This CL, they are the shadow behind the curtain. As they leave the study, Poirot notices a faint scratch on the doorframe, barely visible, as if something heavy was dragged nearby. He kneels, spotting a speck of wax. Candle wax, perhaps, from a late-night visitor. The pieces are scattered, but Poirot's mind is already weaving them together. The study holds the heart of this mystery, Hastings. Someone in this house knows more than they say. With that, he strides toward the garden, where the next clue awaits under the sprawling branches of an ancient oak. Chapter 3. The Whisper of the Oak. The garden of Hargrove Manor stretches out like a forgotten Eden, its manicured hedges and rosebeds cloaked in the damp chill of a London morning. Hercule Poirot, with his polished shoes sinking slightly into the dew-soaked grass, leads Captain Hastings and Inspector Japp toward the ancient oak tree that looms at the far end of the estate. Its gnarled branches twist against the grey sky, as if guarding secrets older than the manor itself. Poirot's eyes, sharp as a hawk's, are fixed on the ground beneath the tree, where the note from the study hinted at a midnight meeting. "Mon cher Hastings," he says, his voice low but vibrant with anticipation. "This oak, it is no mere tree. It is a witness. Let us see what it has seen." The trio reaches the base of the tree, its trunk wide enough to hide a man. Poirot kneels, his gloved hands brushing the earth. He spots a patch of disturbed soil, recently trodden, with a faint imprint of a heel. Narrow, elegant, not a man's boot. "A lady, perhaps," he murmurs. "Or someone clever enough to wear a lady's shoe." Nearby, half buried under a root, glints a small object, a cigarette case, silver, engraved with the initials CL, the same mysterious initials from the ledger in Sir Reginald's study. Japp snatches it up, flipping it open. Inside, a single cigarette remains, its paper stained with a faint trace of lipstick. "Well, I'll be," Japp mutters. This complicates things. Poirot's mind races. The cigarette case, the note, the heel mark. They paint a picture of a clandestine meeting. But with whom? And why here, so far from the house? He examines the case closely, noting a smudge of wax on its edge, matching the candle wax found near the study door. "This meeting," Poirot says, "it was no casual encounter. Someone came here in darkness, with purpose." Hastings, ever practical, suggests searching for more clues, but Poirot gestures toward the manor. "No, we return to the household. The answers lie in their words, their silences." Back inside, Poirot gathers the family in the drawing room, its heavy velvet curtains casting long shadows. Lady Evelyn sits stiffly, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her pearl necklace now perfectly aligned but her eyes betraying a flicker of unease. Victor slouches in an armchair, his jaw set, while Amelia perches on the edge of a sofa, her fingers twisting a silk handkerchief. Dr. Lydia Thorne stands near the fireplace, her expression unreadable, and Mr. Graves hovers by the door, ever the silent sentinel. Poirot holds up the cigarette case, its silver surface catching the light. "This was found beneath the oak. To whom does it belong?" A ripple of tension passes through the room. Lady Evelyn claims ignorance, her voice cool. "I don't smoke, Mr. Poirot. It's unbecoming." Victor snorts, muttering. "Father hated cigarettes, said they were for wastrels." Amelia's eyes widen briefly, but she shakes her head. "Not mine. I prefer French brands." Dr. Thorne steps forward, her tone matter of fact. "Could be anyone's. Guests come and go." But Poirot notices her glance toward Amelia. Quick as a dart, Mr. Graves, when pressed, says, "I've seen no such case in the house." "Sir." Poirot shifts tactics, producing the note from the study, a meeting at midnight under the oak. "Who was there?" Silence falls, thick as the fog outside. Victor breaks it, his voice sharp. "I was in the library, as I told you." Ask anyone. Amelia claims she was asleep, while Lady Evelyn says she retired early with a headache. Dr. Thorne admits to wandering the house but insists she stayed indoors. Graves, ever dutiful, says he was polishing silver in the pantry. Yet Poirot's keen ear catches the faintest tremor in the butler's voice, a crack in his polished facade. Leaving the drawing room, Poirot pulls Hastings aside in the corridor. Observe, mon ami. They protect each other, but not out of love, out of fear. This CL is the key, but they guard the lock tightly. He decides to inspect the servants' quarters, suspecting Graves knows more than he lets on. The butler's small room is Spartan, but Poirot spots a worn coat hanging on a peg. In its pocket, a single matchstick, its tip scorched, and a trace of wax on the cuff. The candle wax again, Poirot says, his eyes gleaming. Mr. Graves was not polishing silver at midnight. Before confronting the butler, Poirot examines the garden path leading back to the house. He finds a faint trail of dirt leading from the oak to a side entrance near the kitchen. Inside, a single rose petal lies on the floor, crushed, its red hue stark against the tiles. A rose from the garden, Poirot muses. Someone carried it inside, perhaps in haste. The petal matches the blooms near the oak, suggesting a hurried return to the manor after the meeting. As the day wanes, Poirot gathers his thoughts. The cigarette case, the note, the wax, the heel mark, the petal. They form a constellation of clues, pointing to a secret rendezvous tied to Sir Reginald's death. Was CL the killer, a lover or a victim of blackmail? And why the iron staircase as the final resting place? Poirot turns to Japp, who's scribbling furiously. Inspector, we must learn more about this CL. Their shadow looms large. The mystery tightens its grip, pulling us toward the next revelation, where the past of Hargrove Manor begins to unravel. Chapter 4. The Ghost of Secrets. Past. The afternoon light filters weakly through the tall windows of Hargrove Manor, casting long, wavering shadows across the polished floors. Hercule Poirot, with Captain Hastings at his side and Inspector Japp trailing close behind, stands in the library, a cavernous room lined with books that seem to whisper forgotten tales. The air is heavy with dust and the faint scent of aged paper. But Poirot's focus is razor sharp. He's convinced the manor's past holds the key to the mysterious CL and the murder under the iron staircase. Mon ami, he says to Hastings, his voice a soft murmur. History is a silent partner in every crime. Let us listen to its story. Poirot begins by examining a family portrait hanging above the fireplace. A stern Sir Reginald, a younger Lady Evelyn, and their children, Victor and Amelia, as toddlers. But something catches his eye. A faint outline where another figure once stood, now painted over. Curieux, Poirot mutters, tracing the canvas edge. Someone has been erased from the Hargrove legacy. He turns to Japp, who's rifling through a stack of old newspapers on a side table. Inspector, we must uncover who this missing person is. They may be our CL. Japp unearths a servant's logbook from a nearby shelf, its pages yellowed but intact. It lists staff from 2 decades ago, including a governess named Clara Langley. CL. Poirot's moustache twitches. Clara Langley, a governess, dismissed abruptly 15 years ago. Why? The log notes her departure coincided with a family incident, but offers no details. Hastings suggests questioning Mr. Graves, the butler, who served long enough to remember. Poirot agrees, but first wants to explore the attic, where old records might linger. The attic is a maze of crates and cobwebs, lit by a single flickering bulb. Poirot, undeterred by the dust, sifts through a trunk labelled Family Papers. Inside, he finds a photograph of a young woman with sharp cheekbones and intense eyes, labelled Clara, 1908. With it is a letter from Sir Reginald to Clara, written in a hurried hand. You must leave for your own safety. The truth cannot come out. Poirot's eyes narrow. A scandal, perhaps, or a secret worth killing for years later. Downstairs, Poirot confronts Mr. Graves in the pantry, where the butler is arranging crystal glassware. Monsieur Graves, tell me of Clara Langley, Poirot says, his tone gentle but unyielding. Graves stiffens, his polishing cloth pausing mid-motion. She was the governess, sir, left suddenly. I don't know why. But his eyes flicker to the floor, and Poirot presses. You were here then. What was the family incident? Graves hesitates, then admits Clara was close to the family. Too close, some whispered. There were rumours, he says, voice low, of an affair with Sir Reginald. Lady Evelyn was furious. Clara vanished soon after. Poirot shifts to Lady Evelyn, finding her in the conservatory, tending to orchids with a distracted air. Madame, who was Clara Langley to you? Her pruning shears pause and her lips tighten. A governess, nothing more. She left after neglecting her duties. But Poirot notes her knuckles whitening around the shears. And the payments to Ciela in your husband's ledger, were they to her? Lady Evelyn's composure cracks for a moment. I knew nothing of payments, she snaps, but her voice wavers. Victor, when questioned, grows belligerent. Clara, never heard of her. Father didn't talk about old staff. Amelia, however, freezes when Poirot mentions the governess. I was a child, she says softly. I remember her stories, her kindness. Then she was gone. Her eyes glisten, and Poirot wonders if Amelia knows more than she admits. Dr. Thorne, ever practical, claims Clara was before her time, but her medical bag contains a faded prescription slip with C. Langley scrawled on it, dated years ago. An old patient, she says quickly, but Poirot senses a lie. Back in the library, Poirot pieces together the clues. Clara's dismissal, the painted-over portrait, the letter, the payments. Clara Langley was no mere governess, he tells Hastings. She was a wound in this family's heart, but is she our killer or another victim? He notices a locked cabinet in the corner, its key missing. Japp, ever resourceful, pries it open with a tool from his kit. Inside, a bundle of love letters from Sir Reginald to Clara, dated just before her departure, hint at a forbidden romance and a child. Mon Dieu, Poirot breathes. A secret heir, perhaps? As twilight settles over the manor, Poirot stands by the iron staircase, gazing at the spot where Sir Reginald died. The past is clawing its way into the present, and Clara Langley's shadow looms larger. Was she at the oak tree that night? Is she still alive, seeking revenge? The mystery coils tighter, leading to the next thread in the tangled web of Hargrove Manor's secrets. Chapter 5. The Veil. Lifts. The evening descends upon Hargrove Manor like a shroud, the wind whispering through the eaves as if carrying echoes of long-buried secrets. Hercule Poirot, seated in the dimly lit parlour with a steaming cup of tisane in hand, pores over the bundle of love letters unearthed from the library cabinet. Each page, scripted in Sir Reginald's elegant hand, reveals a passion that transcended social boundaries, a forbidden romance with Clara Langley, the governess that blossomed into something far more profound. Captain Hastings paces nearby, his brow furrowed in contemplation, while Inspector Japp leans against the mantelpiece, puffing on his pipe and casting occasional glances toward the iron staircase in the foyer beyond. Poirot, Japp says, breaking the silence. These letters speak of a child. If Clara bore Sir Reginald's offspring, that could upend the entire inheritance. Motive aplenty for murder. Poirot sets down his cup with a deliberate clink, his green eyes reflecting the firelight. Oui, Inspecteur. A secret heir would indeed disrupt the Hargrove dynasty. But we must verify if this child exists, and if they are our elusive CL who received those payments. He rises smoothly, adjusting his immaculate lapels, and suggests a deeper inquiry into Clara's whereabouts after her dismissal. Perhaps the good doctor, Lydia Thorne, holds more knowledge than she admits. Her prescription slip bore Clara's name. Old, yes, but telling. They summon Dr. Thorne to the parlour, where she enters with a measured stride, her white coat replaced by a simple woolen dress. Yet her demeanour remains that of a professional unperturbed by chaos. She takes a seat across from Poirot, her hands clasped in her lap. "You found the letters, then?" she says evenly, anticipating the line of questioning. Poirot nods, his voice gentle but probing. "Mademoiselle Doctor, you knew Clara Langley. The prescription, why did you treat her?" Thorne sighs, her gaze drifting to the window where rain now patters against the panes. "Clara was ill when she left the manor. A delicate condition, you might say. I helped her as a friend discreetly. She was with child, Sir Reginald's by all accounts. Lady Evelyn discovered the affair and demanded her departure to avoid scandal." Hastings leans forward, intrigued. "And the child? What became of them?" Thorne hesitates, her fingers tightening. "A boy born in secrecy. Clara named him Christopher. She raised him alone in a small village outside London, with financial support from Sir Reginald. Those payments in the ledger. But Christopher grew resentful, knowing his father's rejection. He visited the manor sporadically, under aliases, seeking recognition." Poirot's moustache quivers slightly. "And this Christopher, does he go by CL now?" Clara's initials, perhaps a clever disguise to mask the true recipient. Thorne nods reluctantly. "Yes, the payments shifted to Christopher after Clara's death 5 years ago. He inherited her grudge. Sir Reginald promised to acknowledge him in his will, but delayed, fearing family uproar." Japp interjects, his pipe forgotten. "So Christopher could have been here that night, meeting under the oak as per the note." Poirot agrees, his mind whirring. "We must find this Christopher Langley. Inspector, dispatch your men to trace him. Village records, perhaps, or recent addresses tied to the payments." While Japp steps out to make arrangements via the manor's telephone, Poirot turns his attention to Amelia Hargrove, who has been lingering in the hallway, eavesdropping perhaps. He invites her in, noting her pale complexion and the way she clutches a locket around her neck. "Mademoiselle Amelia, you remember Clara fondly. Did you know of your half-brother?" Amelia's eyes well with tears as she sinks into a chair. "I suspected. Papa confided in me during my time in Paris. He wrote letters expressing regret. Christopher contacted me last year, bitter and demanding. He wanted his share, threatened to expose everything if Papa didn't comply." Poirot probes further, his tone sympathetic. "And the earring we found in the study. Does it belong to you, or perhaps to someone connected to Christopher?" Amelia touches her ear, then admits, "It's mine. I lost it during a secret meeting with Christopher in the garden 2 weeks ago. He begged me to intercede with father." Hastings exchanges a glance with Poirot. This places Amelia nearer to the intrigue than previously thought. "Did Victor know?" Poirot asks. Amelia shakes her head. "Victor would have exploded. He's always been protective of the estate, seeing it as his birthright." As the conversation unfolds, Victor himself bursts into the parlour, his face thunderous, having overheard fragments from the corridor. "Half-brother? Preposterous! Father would never—" But Poirot cuts him off smoothly. "Monsieur Victor, denial serves no one. The letters confirm it. Where were you truly at midnight? Not in the library, I think." Victor deflates slightly, admitting he was in the billiard room, nursing a brandy and brooding over debts. "I heard footsteps in the foyer but thought nothing of it. Graves, perhaps." Speaking of the butler, Mr. Graves is next to be recalled, his uniform as impeccable as ever, despite the late hour. Poirot confronts him with the wax on his coat cuff and the matchstick. "You were in the garden that night, monsieur. Why?" Graves bows his head, his loyalty cracking under the detective's gaze. "I was delivering a message from Sir Reginald to young Master Christopher. They argued under the oak, harsh words about the will. I returned via the side door, but saw no one else." Poirot absorbs this, his little grey cells aligning the timeline. The argument, the note, the cigarette case, left behind by Christopher perhaps, with lipstick from a companion. But who? He examines the locket Amelia wears, asking to see it. Inside, a miniature portrait of Clara, and on the back engraved 2A from CL. Christopher's gift, tying them closer. Meanwhile, Jap returns with news. Christopher Langley, now 23, works as a clerk in London but was seen boarding a train to the manor the day before the murder. His lodgings confirm he smokes the same brand as the cigarette in the case. "We've got officers en route to bring him in," Jap announces. Lady Evelyn, overhearing the commotion, enters the parlour like a ghost, her elegance masking inner turmoil. "Christopher, that boy ruined everything," she whispers. "Reginald promised to cut him off, but couldn't. I begged him to end the payments." Poirot notes her bitterness. Could she have orchestrated the death to protect the family fortune? As the clock strikes 10, Poirot gathers everyone in the foyer near the fateful staircase. He paces slowly, reconstructing the night. Christopher meets Sir Reginald under the oak, argues, follows him inside. A struggle? The stab wound, precise, suggests premeditation. The body placed under the stairs, a symbolic hiding, like the family's secrets. But a new clue emerges. Poirot spots a loose thread on the staircase railing, matching fabric from Dr. Thorne's dress. "You were there, Doctor," he says softly. Thorne pales. I tried to help. I heard the commotion, found Reginald dying. He whispered Christopher before passing. Why not raise the alarm immediately? "I panicked," she claims. "Feared implication." The revelations swirl like the storm outside, each suspect's alibi fraying further. Chapter 6. The stranger at the gate. The rain has thickened into a relentless downpour, drumming against Hargrove Manor's ancient roof as the night deepens. Hercule Poirot stands by a tall window in the drawing room, his silhouette sharp against the flickering glow of a candelabra. Captain Hastings sits nearby, leafing through a map of the estate, while Inspector Japp paces, awaiting word from his officers tracking Christopher Langley. The air is taut with anticipation, the weight of secrets pressing down like the storm outside. Poirot's fingers tap lightly on his watch chain, his mind sifting through the tangled threads of love, betrayal, and murder. "Mon ami," he says to Hastings, his voice a quiet melody. "The truth is like this rain, persistent, revealing. Soon, it will wash away the lies." A sudden commotion at the manor's front gate breaks the tension. Japp's men have returned, escorting a young man through the mud-slicked drive. Christopher Langley, tall and lean with sharp features reminiscent of Clara's photograph, steps into the foyer, his coat dripping and eyes blazing with defiance. His resemblance to Sir Reginald is striking. The same high forehead, the same intense gaze. Japp wastes no time. "Mr. Langley, you've some explaining to do. You were here the night of the murder, weren't you?" Christopher's jaw tightens, but he nods. "I came to confront my father. He owed me, owed my mother, everything." Poirot steps forward, his demeanour calm but commanding. "Monsieur Langley, tell us of this confrontation under the oak tree." Christopher's story spills out reluctantly. He arrived late, meeting Sir Reginald as arranged via the note found in the study. "We argued," he admits, his voice rough. "I wanted recognition, a place in his will. He promised to consider it, but said Lady Evelyn would never allow it. I left angry, but alive he was when I walked away." Poirot's eyes narrow. "And the cigarette case with your initials?" Christopher frowns. "Lost it weeks ago. Someone must have taken it." The household gathers, drawn by the raised voices. Lady Evelyn glares at Christopher, her composure fraying. "You're no son of this house," she hisses. Victor clenches his fists, muttering about interlopers, while Amelia watches silently, her locket clutched tightly. Dr. Thorne remains impassive, but Mr. Graves, the butler, shifts uncomfortably, his eyes darting to the iron staircase. Poirot notices every gesture, every glance. "Monsieur Langley," he continues, "you claim you left, yet the heel mark under the oak suggests a woman's presence. Were you alone?" Christopher hesitates, then shakes his head. "I was with a friend, a woman. She waited nearby but didn't come to the meeting." This revelation stirs the room. Poirot presses for a name, but Christopher refuses. She's no part of this, he insists. Japp, skeptical, orders a constable to search Christopher's lodgings for any trace of this mysterious woman. Meanwhile, Poirot turns his attention to the staircase, where Sir Reginald's body was found. He examines the railing again, noting the thread from Dr. Thorne's dress. Doctor, you claimed you found Sir Reginald dying. Yet this thread, how did it catch here if you merely checked his pulse? Thorne's face pales. I stumbled in the dark, trying to help. My dress caught. Poirot's little grey cells hum. He requests to see the kitchen, where the side entrance from the garden lies. The crushed rose petal found earlier nags at him. In the kitchen, he spots a small vase of roses on a counter, identical to those in the garden. Who brought these inside? He asks Graves, who's followed them. The butler falters. I did, sir, that morning, for the dining table. But Poirot's sharp eye catches a single petal caught in the hem of Graves's trousers, suggesting he was in the garden more recently than admitted. Returning to the drawing room, Poirot questions Amelia about her locket, which bears Christopher's initials. Did he give it to you during your meeting 2 weeks ago? Amelia nods, tears brimming. He said it was Mother's, Clara's, a keepsake to prove we were family. Victor scoffs, but Poirot silences him with a raised hand. Monsieur Victor, your anger at Christopher is clear. Did you see him that night? Victor denies it, claiming he was in the billiard room, but his eyes flicker toward the staircase. Poirot then examines Christopher's coat, still damp from the rain. A faint smear of dirt on the sleeve matches the soil under the oak. You were there, monsieur, but did you enter the house? Christopher insists he left via the gate, never crossing the threshold. Yet Poirot finds a tiny shard of glass in the coat's pocket, matching the chandelier above the staircase. Curieux, he murmurs. This glass suggests proximity to the foyer. As midnight looms, Poirot gathers everyone beneath the iron staircase, its cold metal gleaming in the lamplight. He paces, reconstructing the night. Christopher's argument, the woman's presence, the petal, the glass, the thread. Someone followed Sir Reginald inside, he declares. The murder was no impulse. It was planned. Staged to point at Christopher, Lady Evelyn gasps softly, while Victor's face darkens. Dr. Thorne's hands tremble, and Graves stands rigid, his loyalty strained. Japp receives a call. Christopher's lodgings yielded a woman's scarf, scented with the same French perfume Amelia wears. Mademoiselle Amelia, were you the woman at the oak? Poirot asks gently. She shakes her head vehemently, but her locket slips open, revealing a tiny note inside. Oak, midnight, sea. Poirot's gaze sharpens. You lied, mademoiselle. You were there. The room holds its breath as Poirot turns to the group. The killer is among us, using Christopher as a pawn. The staircase hides their final secret. With that, he kneels, inspecting the base of the stairs, where a faint scratch reveals a hidden panel. Inside, a bloodied letter opener engraved with Hargrove, the murder weapon, concealed where none thought to look. The discovery sends a shockwave through the manor, and the truth edges closer, pulling us into the next unravelling of this intricate puzzle. Chapter 7. The Hidden Blade. The air in Hargrove Manor's foyer grows heavy as Hercule Poirot holds up the bloodied letter opener, its silver blade catching the chandelier's light like a grim beacon. The group, Lady Evelyn, Victor, Amelia, Dr. Thorne, Mr. Graves, and the newly arrived Christopher Langley, stands frozen beneath the iron staircase, their faces a gallery of shock, fear, and suspicion. Captain Hastings grips his notebook tightly, while Inspector Japp steps forward, his voice gruff. That's the murder weapon, no doubt. Hidden right under our noses. Poirot nods, his eyes scanning each suspect with the precision of a jeweller examining a flawed gem. Oui, Inspecteur. This blade tells a story, but not the whole truth. We must uncover who placed it here, and why. Poirot turns the letter opener over in his gloved hands, noting the engraved Hargrove crest. This is no common tool. It belongs to the family, kept in the study, no? Lady Evelyn confirms with a curt nod, her voice strained. It was Reginald's, used for his correspondence. Poirot's gaze shifts to the hidden panel at the staircase's base, a cleverly disguised compartment blending seamlessly with the ironwork. The killer chose this hiding place with care, he says. They knew the manor's secrets, its nooks and crannies. He begins questioning the group, starting with Victor, whose temper flares at the sight of the weapon. "I've not touched that thing in years," he snaps, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. Poirot raises an eyebrow. "Yet you were in the study often, monsieur, managing accounts. Did you see the letter opener that night?" Victor insists he didn't, his alibi still pinned to the billiard room, but his fidgeting betrays unease. Amelia, clutching her locket, claims she never handled the letter opener, her voice trembling. "I was in my room, I swear." But the note in her locket, marked Oak Midnight Sea, places her closer to the crime than she'd like. Dr. Thorne, composed but pale, reiterates her story of finding Sir Reginald dying. "I saw no weapon," she says, her medical calm wavering under Poirot's scrutiny. "I only tried to help." Poirot points to the thread from her dress on the railing. "Your presence at the scene is undeniable, Doctor. Did you see the letter opener before you stumbled?" She shakes her head, but her eyes flicker toward Graves. The butler, standing rigid as ever, meets Poirot's gaze. "Monsieur Graves, you move through this house like a shadow. Did you see this blade moved from the study?" Graves hesitates, then admits, "I noticed it missing from the desk a day before the murder. I assumed Sir Reginald took it." Poirot's moustache twitches. "And you did not think to mention this?" Graves bows his head, murmuring about loyalty to the family. Christopher Langley, still damp from the rain, speaks up unprompted. "I never touched that blade. I argued with my father, yes, but I left him alive." His voice cracks with desperation, and Poirot notes the sincerity in his eyes. "Yet, monsieur, the glass shard in your coat pocket places you in this foyer," Poirot counters. Christopher insists it must have clung to him unknowingly, perhaps from brushing past the chandelier on a prior visit. Poirot steps back, pacing the foyer, his polished shoes clicking on the marble. He reconstructs the night, Christopher's argument under the oak, Amelia's presence nearby, the killer's swift strike with the letter opener, and the body's placement under the staircase. The weapon was hidden to delay discovery, he muses aloud, but not destroyed. Why? To point to another? Or because the killer could not bear to part with it? He requests to revisit the study, where the letter opener was last seen. The room feels colder now, the fire long died out. Poirot examines the desk, noticing a faint scratch near the inkwell, as if the blade was hastily grabbed. A single drop of dried ink, splattered on the blotter, catches his eye. "This ink," he says, "it is not from Sir Reginald's pen. Someone else was here, writing, perhaps in haste." Hastings suggests checking for fingerprints, but Poirot shakes his head. "No, the killer is too clever for that. But they left their mark in other ways." Poirot then inspects the servants' corridor near the study, a narrow passage used by Graves and others. A faint smudge of blood, nearly invisible on the dark wood, marks the wall. "The killer passed this way," Poirot declares, carrying the bloodied blade to the staircase. Japp orders the smudge preserved for analysis, though he doubts it'll yield much. Poirot, however, is more interested in a discarded handkerchief found nearby, monogrammed with E.H., Lady Evelyn Hargrove. Confronting her in the parlour, Poirot holds up the handkerchief. "Madame, this was found near a blood smudge. Care to explain?" Lady Evelyn's composure cracks, her hands trembling. I was in the study that evening, looking for Reginald's will. I must have dropped it." Poirot probes further. "And did you see the letter opener?" She denies it, but her voice falters, and Poirot senses a half-truth. As the storm rages outside, Poirot gathers the suspects again, this time in the library. He lays out the clues: the letter opener, the hidden panel, the blood smudge, the handkerchief, and Amelia's note. "The killer is one of you," he says, his voice steady. "They used the letter opener, a family heirloom, to strike Sir Reginald, then hid it to cast suspicion elsewhere. Perhaps on Christopher, but the handkerchief and the ink suggest a deeper involvement." Lady Evelyn gasps. Victor clenches his jaw, and Amelia stifles a sob. Dr. Thorne's eyes dart to Graves, who remains statue-like. Christopher, defiant, insists on his innocence. Poirot's gaze lingers on the staircase visible through the library door. "The iron staircase," he says softly. "It is not just a stage for death. It is a mirror, reflecting the truth we are yet to see." With the murder weapon in hand and suspicions tightening, the manor feels like a pressure cooker, ready to explode with the next revelation. The truth is near, beckoning us to the next twist in this deadly dance. Chapter 8. The tangled lies. The storm outside Hargrove Manor rages on, its howling winds rattling the windows as if urging the truth to break free. Hercule Poirot stands in the library, his small frame commanding the room as he faces the assembled suspects. Lady Evelyn, Victor, Amelia, Dr. Thorne, Mr. Graves, and Christopher Langley. The bloodied letter opener, now sealed in an evidence bag by Inspector Japp, rests on a table, its presence a silent accusation. Captain Hastings hovers near the door, his eyes darting between the group, while Japp adjusts his hat, impatient for answers. Poirot's voice cuts through the tension like a scalpel. "Mes amis, the lies in this house are like a spider's web, intricate, fragile, and soon to collapse. Let us unravel them." Poirot begins with the handkerchief marked E.H., holding it up delicately. "Madame Evelyn, you claim you dropped this in the study while searching for the will, yet it was found near a blood smudge in the servants' corridor. How did it travel there?" Lady Evelyn's face tightens, her elegance strained. "I must have lost it earlier," she says, her voice thin. "I wandered the house that night, anxious about Reginald's business troubles." Poirot's eyes gleam. "And did you wander near the staircase, madame, where the body was concealed?" She shakes her head vehemently, but her hands betray a slight tremble. Turning to Victor, Poirot shifts focus. "Monsieur Victor, your alibi places you in the billiard room, yet the ink splatter in the study suggests someone was there, writing in haste. Was it you, perhaps drafting a note to cover your debts?" Victor's face reddens. "I told you I was nowhere near the study. I was drinking, brooding. Ask Graves. He brought me the brandy." Graves nods slightly, but Poirot catches a fleeting glance between the butler and Dr. Thorne, as if sharing an unspoken secret. Poirot then addresses Amelia, whose locket has become a focal point. "Mademoiselle, your meeting with Christopher under the oak confirmed by the note inside your locket. Why hide it?" Amelia's voice cracks as she speaks. "I was afraid. Christopher was so angry, talking of confronting Papa. I didn't want to betray him." Poirot nods thoughtfully. "And the perfume on the scarf found in Christopher's lodgings. Yours, no? Were you his friend that night?" Amelia hesitates, then admits, "I was there, briefly to calm him, but I left before the argument ended." Dr. Thorne, standing by the fireplace, interjects sharply. "This is pointless, Mr. Poirot. You're chasing shadows. I told you, I found Reginald dead and panicked." Poirot's gaze pierces her. "Yet, Doctor, the thread from your dress and your delay in raising the alarm suggest more than panic. Did you see the letter opener in his hand?" Thorne's lips purse, and she remains silent, her fingers gripping the mantle. Poirot turns to Christopher, whose defiance has softened into weariness. "Monsieur Langley, the glass shard in your coat places you in the foyer, yet you claim you never entered. Can you explain?" Christopher runs a hand through his damp hair. "I don't know how it got there. Maybe when I visited last week, arguing with father in the hall. But I swear I left after our talk under the oak." Poirot notes his sincerity, but remains unconvinced, his mind circling the chandelier's proximity to the crime scene. Finally, Poirot faces Mr. Graves, whose stoic facade is beginning to crack. "Monsieur Graves, you delivered brandy to Victor. Yet the petal on your trousers places you in the garden, and the wax on your coat suggests you carried a candle. Were you following Sir Reginald after his meeting? Graves' shoulders slumped slightly. I was in the garden, yes, retrieving a tray left outside. I saw Christopher leave, but I returned through the kitchen, not the foyer. Poirot's eyes narrow. And the wax? You were near the study, non? Graves admits to lighting a candle when the lights flickered, but insists he saw nothing of the murder. Poirot steps to the centre of the room, his hands clasped behind his back. Let us consider the sequence. Christopher argues with Sir Reginald under the oak. Amelia is nearby, watching. Someone, perhaps our killer, follows Sir Reginald inside, takes the letter opener from the study, and strikes him in the foyer. The body is moved beneath the staircase, the weapon hidden in the panel. The handkerchief, the ink, the thread, all point to a carefully staged scene. He pauses, scanning the faces before him. But the web of lies is most telling. Each of you conceals something. Lady Evelyn, your knowledge of the payments to Christopher. Victor, your movements that night. Amelia, your presence at the oak. Dr. Thorne, your delay in reporting the death. Graves, your nocturnal wanderings. And Christopher, the glass shard. One of you used these clues to weave a trap for another. Poirot moves to the iron staircase, running a finger along its cold railing. He notices a faint dent, barely visible, as if something heavy struck it. This dent, he muses aloud, perhaps from the letter opener's handle during a struggle. Japp orders a constable to examine it, but Poirot's focus shifts to a small overlooked detail. A single hair, dark and curled, caught in the staircase's base. This hair, he says, holding it up, does not match Sir Reginald's. It belongs to the killer, or someone very close to the crime. The room gasps as Poirot pockets the hair for analysis. He turns to Japp. Inspector, we must test this against our suspects, but I suspect the truth lies not in the hair alone, but in the motive behind the staging. The killer wanted us to suspect Christopher, but their own traces betray them. Lady Evelyn's eyes dart to Victor, who glares at Amelia, who in turn looks pleadingly at Christopher. Thorne and Graves remain silent, their expressions guarded. As the storm reaches a crescendo, Poirot's little grey cells churn. The letter opener, the handkerchief, the hair, they form a constellation of guilt, pointing to a truth hidden in plain sight. The iron staircase, he declares, is not just the scene of death, it is the stage of deception. One more piece remains to reveal the killer. With the net tightening around the suspects, the manor braces for the final unravelling, drawing us closer to the heart of this deadly charade. Chapter 9. The Breaking Storm. The relentless storm outside Hargrove Manor seems to mirror the turmoil within, its thunderous claps echoing through the grand halls like accusations hurled from the heavens. Hercule Poirot, ever the master of composure, stands at the centre of the library, the single dark hair pinched between his gloved fingers like a trophy of deduction. The suspects, Lady Evelyn, perched rigidly on the edge of a velvet armchair, her face a mask of aristocratic restraint. Victor, pacing with the ferocity of a trapped animal, his fists clenched at his sides. Amelia, huddled on a settee, her eyes red-rimmed from unshed tears, clutching her locket as if it were a lifeline. Dr. Lydia Thorne, leaning against a bookshelf with crossed arms, her medical precision now turned to self-defense. Mr. Graves, the butler, standing at attention near the door, his uniform impeccable, but his expression etched with quiet dread. And Christopher Langley, the outsider thrust into the family's dark heart, seated defiantly, yet with a shadow of uncertainty in his gaze. All wait in a circle of lamplight, their breaths shallow, the air thick with unspoken fears. Captain Hastings, loyal as ever, hovers near Poirot, his notebook at the ready, while Inspector Japp, his pipe clenched between his teeth, gestures to a constable to take the hair for immediate comparison against samples collected earlier from each suspect. This could be the clincher, Poirot, Japp mutters, his voice low but laced with excitement. A single hair to hang the guilty by. Poirot, however, waves a dismissive hand, his green eyes sparkling with the thrill of the chase. Non, inspecteur. The hair is but a thread in the tapestry. It tells us proximity, yes, but the motive, the opportunity, the deception, these are the colours that paint the full picture. We must delve deeper into the souls of those before us. Poirot begins his methodical dissection, starting with Lady Evelyn, whose handkerchief has become a damning piece of evidence. "Madame," he says, his voice smooth as silk yet sharp as a blade. "Your handkerchief, marked with your initials, found near the blood smudge in the servants' corridor. You claim it was lost while searching for the will in the study, but let us consider. The corridor leads directly from the study to the foyer, the path our killer likely took after the deed. Was this handkerchief dropped in flight, perhaps wiping the blood from your hands?" Lady Evelyn's eyes widen, her composure fracturing like fine china under pressure. "How dare you accuse me, Monsieur Poirot? I loved Reginald despite his indiscretions. I would never—" Her voice trails off, and she dabs at her forehead with a lace sleeve, avoiding the eyes of her children and the interloper Christopher. Poirot nods sympathetically, but his gaze is unrelenting. "Ah, but love can turn to hate when betrayed, madame. The payments to Christopher, the secret heir, they threatened your family's legacy, your social standing. Did you confront Sir Reginald that night, letter opener in hand, demanding he end the charade?" Lady Evelyn shakes her head vehemently, but Poirot notes the way her pearl necklace catches the light. One bead still slightly misaligned from the first night, a telltale sign of lingering agitation. Moving to Victor, Poirot's tone hardens. "Monsieur Victor, you're brooding in the billiard room, your debts mounting like storm clouds. The ink splatter in the study, fresh, hasty, suggests a note written in anger. Perhaps a forgery of the will or a demand for more funds. You knew of Christopher, did you not? Saw him as a thief stealing your inheritance." Victor stops pacing, his face flushed crimson.
"I knew nothing of that bastard until now."
"My father was a fool, squandering our fortune on his mistakes. But murder, I'd fight him openly, not stab him in the dark." Yet as he speaks, his hand unconsciously brushes his coat pocket, where Poirot earlier noticed a bulge, perhaps a hidden letter or key. Amelia is next, her fragility drawing Poirot's gentler approach. "Mademoiselle, your locket holds more than memories. It holds secrets. The note to meet at the Oak, your presence there with Christopher. Did you witness the argument, or did you follow your father inside, pleading for peace, only for the plea to turn fatal?" Amelia's sobs break free, her words tumbling out in a rush. "I was there, yes, to support Christopher, he's my brother, but I left when they started shouting. I heard Papa say he'd cut us both off if we pushed him. I ran back to my room, terrified." Poirot pats her hand reassuringly, but his mind notes the French perfume lingering on her, matching the scarf in Christopher's lodgings, a scent that could have wafted into the foyer. Dr. Thorne, with her clinical demeanour, meets Poirot's eyes steadily. "Doctor, your thread on the railing, your delay in alerting the house. As a physician, you know the value of time in saving a life. Why hesitate unless you were ensuring the wound was fatal?" Thorne's arms uncross, her voice steady but her knuckles white. "I told you I panicked. Reginald was my friend, my patient. I checked for signs of life, but he was gone. The shock, it froze me." Poirot tilts his head. "And yet you moved the body slightly, non, to place it neatly under the stairs, perhaps hiding evidence of your involvement." Thorne's denial is swift, but Poirot detects a flicker of doubt in her eyes. Mr. Graves, the ever-faithful servant, is addressed with respect. "Monsieur Graves, your years of service bind you to this family like iron chains. The petal on your trousers, the wax on your coat. You were in the garden, then the study, then perhaps the foyer. Did loyalty drive you to protect the Hargroves by eliminating the threat? Sir Reginald's weakness for his past?" Graves's voice is a whisper, his posture slumping for the first time. Sir Reginald was a good master, but his secrets burdened us all. I saw him return from the oak, agitated. I offered tea, but he waved me away. I heard nothing more until the cry. Poirot nods, sensing truth mixed with omission. Finally, Christopher, Monsieur Langley, the glass shard, your anger, your claim to the estate. You argued, then perhaps followed him inside, seizing the letter opener in a moment of rage. Christopher leaps to his feet. I wanted recognition, not his death. I left him alive, storming off into the night. Someone else must have... He stops, glancing at the others, suspicion dawning. As the constable returns with preliminary analysis, the hair matches Dr. Thorne's dark curls. Poirot raises a hand. The hair places you at the scene, Doctor. Beyond doubt. Thorne gasps. I told you I found him. The hair must have fallen then. But the room erupts in accusations. Victor points at Thorne. Amelia defends Christopher. Lady Evelyn weeps quietly. Poirot silences them with a clap. Enough. The storm breaks, but not yet fully. This hair is a clue, but the killer's hand is revealed in the staging. The body under the staircase, symbolic of hidden shame. The weapon concealed yet findable. The clues scattered to implicate all. The murderer is clever, manipulating us like puppets. He paces, connecting dots. The dent on the railing from a struggle. The ink from a forged note perhaps planted by Victor. The handkerchief dropped by Lady Evelyn in haste. Amelia's perfume masking another's scent. Japp interrupts with news. Fingerprints on the letter opener match Graves. The butler pales. I handled it earlier that day, polishing it. Poirot's eyes light up. Ah, but the blood beneath the prints suggests otherwise. Graves crumples, but before confession, Poirot halts. No, there is more. The little grey cells see a conspiracy. Perhaps not one killer, but accomplices. As lightning illuminates the room, Poirot unveils a hidden letter found in the staircase panel, written in Sir Reginald's hand. If I die, suspect the one who knows all. Eyes turn to Graves, the keeper of secrets, but Poirot smiles enigmatically. The breaking storm reveals all in time. We are close. Very close. The manor quakes with thunder, and the truth teeters on the edge, propelling us toward the final confrontation in this labyrinth of deceit. Chapter 10. The truth beneath the iron. The storm over Hargrove Manor reaches a fevered crescendo, its lightning casting jagged shadows across the grand foyer where Hercule Poirot stands, his small figure a beacon of clarity amid the chaos. The iron staircase looms behind him, its cold spirals a silent witness to the crime that has unravelled the Hargrove family. The suspects, Lady Evelyn, Victor, Amelia, Dr. Lydia Thorne, Mr. Graves and Christopher Langley, form a tense semicircle, their faces a mosaic of dread, defiance and desperation. Captain Hastings, notebook clutched tightly, stands to Poirot's left, while Inspector Japp, his pipe long extinguished, grips the evidence bag containing the bloodied letter opener. The air crackles with anticipation as Poirot raises his hands, his voice calm yet commanding. Mes amis, the time has come. The little grey cells have woven the threads of this mystery into a tapestry of truth. The killer of Sir Reginald Hargrove stands among us. And now, all shall be revealed. Poirot begins by addressing the scene itself. The body beneath the iron staircase, a deliberate choice. This placement, he says, was no accident. It was a symbol of secrets buried, of shame hidden in the heart of the family. But the clues, the letter opener, the handkerchief, the hair, the glass shard, the note, the petal, point not to one killer, but to a conspiracy born of fear and greed. He paces slowly, his polished shoes echoing on the marble floor, his eyes scanning each suspect like a hawk circling its prey. He starts with Christopher Langley, the secret heir. Monsieur Christopher, your anger at Sir Reginald was justified. Denied your birthright, you confronted him under the oak, demanding recognition. The cigarette case, your initials CL, was left there, perhaps by accident, perhaps planted. But your story holds. You left him alive, your coat catching a glass shard from the chandelier during a prior visit. Christopher exhales, relief mingling with lingering defiance. But Poirot raises a finger. Yet you were a pawn, monsieur, used to draw suspicion. Turning to Amelia, Poirot's tone softens. Mademoiselle Amelia, your locket and perfume tied you to the oak, where you met Christopher to plead for peace. Your love for your half-brother is genuine, but your fear led you to lie about your presence. The note in your locket, Oak, Midnight Sea, confirms you saw the argument but fled before the murder. Amelia nods, tears streaming down her face. Her locket clutched tightly as she whispers, I only wanted to protect him. Poirot's gaze shifts to Victor, whose temper has simmered into a sullen glare. Monsieur Victor, your debts and resentment of Christopher made you a suspect. The ink splatter in the study suggested a forged note, perhaps an attempt to alter the will in your favour. But your alibi in the billiard room, though shaky, is supported by Mr. Graves's delivery of brandy. You did not wield the blade, but your anger clouded your truth. Victor's shoulders slump, his bluster deflated. Lady Evelyn is next, her elegance now a fragile veneer. Madame, your handkerchief near the blood smudge and your knowledge of the payments to Christopher point to motive, protecting the Hargrove legacy from scandal. You searched the study for the will, desperate to secure your family's fortune. But your hands did not strike the blow. They only sought to cover it. Lady Evelyn's lips tremble, but she remains silent, her eyes fixed on the floor. Dr. Thorne, her composure fraying, faces Poirot's scrutiny. Doctor, the hair, yours, found at the scene, and the thread from your dress, place you at the staircase. You claimed to find Sir Reginald dying, yet delayed the alarm. Why? Because you were ensuring the act was complete. Thorne gasps, shaking her head. I tried to save him. Poirot's eyes narrow. Non. You ensured his silence, but you did not act alone. Finally, Poirot turns to Mr. Graves, the butler whose loyalty has been his shield. Monsieur Graves, your fingerprints on the letter opener, the wax on your coat, the petal on your trousers. You were everywhere that night. You delivered the message to Christopher, saw the argument, followed Sir Reginald inside. You knew the manor's secrets, including the hidden panel where you concealed the weapon. Graves's face pales, his stoic mask crumbling. I served this family faithfully, he murmurs, but Poirot presses on. Faithfully, yes, to Lady Evelyn and Dr. Thorne. Poirot steps to the centre, his voice rising with conviction. Here is the truth. Sir Reginald's death was a conspiracy. Dr. Thorne, you loved him once, as Clara Langley did, but his refusal to acknowledge Christopher and his continued payments enraged you. You saw a chance to end his indecision. Lady Evelyn, you feared the scandal would ruin your family, so you encouraged Thorne's plan, providing the letter opener from the study. Mr. Graves, bound by loyalty, agreed to assist, cleaning the scene, hiding the weapon, planting clues to frame Christopher. He reconstructs the night. Christopher argued with Sir Reginald under the oak, witnessed by Amelia, who fled. Sir Reginald returned to the manor, agitated. Dr. Thorne, waiting in the study, took the letter opener and followed him to the foyer. A struggle ensued, the dent on the railing, the hair, the thread. She struck him, a single precise blow as a doctor would know how. Lady Evelyn, nearby, dropped her handkerchief in panic as she helped move the body under the stairs. Graves, ever the shadow, concealed the letter opener in the panel, leaving the glass shard and cigarette case to point to Christopher. The room is silent, the storm outside a mere whisper now. Thorne breaks first, her voice shaking. He was going to ruin us all, keeping that boy's claim alive. I thought it was for the best. Lady Evelyn sobs. I only wanted to protect my children. Graves, head bowed, admits, I did as they asked, for the family's honor. Japp steps forward, signaling his constables. That's enough for arrests, murder and conspiracy. As Thorne, Evelyn and Graves are led away, Amelia clings to Christopher, who stands stunned but free. Victor, though cleared, looks broken, the weight of his family's collapse heavy on him. Poirot turns to Hastings, his moustache curling slightly. The iron staircase held the truth, mon ami, but it was the hearts of those within that forged the crime. As the manor empties, the storm clears, leaving only the echo of justice. If you've been gripped by this tale, grab a cup of tea and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. Comment below with your thoughts, and stay tuned for more mysteries with Hercule Poirot.